Hey, what's up guys, Smashing here, come back with a brand new video for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about if Antwerp is going to be oversupplied and what that really means for moving forward and investing. Obviously, almost every CSGO investment at this point is going to be oversupplied to a certain extent, but we're going to be talking about Antwerp here, what really needs to happen for that oversupply to not be as important, and a couple other things. Let's hop on into it here. The first big thing I want to talk about is the word oversupply is going to be used a ton with Antwerp. It was used with Stockholm as well. Every CSGO investment we see now is going to be oversupplied to a certain extent. There's so many people getting into CSGO investing and involved in CSGO investing, and they're being able to use so much capital to control a lot of the market. Therefore, every CSGO investment, in my opinion, is going to have more investors than we want. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad investment, whatever you go into. Now, when we're talking about Antwerp here, there's a couple big things that I think are going to be very hard for the Capsule to overcome. First up, it's that increased rarity of the hollows. Obviously, the hollows here are 5 times more rare than the hollows from Stockholm, and this is going to be playing a major role moving forward, in my opinion. Whether this means that's going to be good for Stockholm or bad for Antwerp, I'm not too exactly sure, but the main thing is it's not going to be beneficial for Antwerp at all in this scenario, at least talking about the hollows. The good benefit switch off of that is the glitters. Obviously, glitters are brand new, and whether you like them or dislike them, the fact that they're here is kind of a win-win situation in my eyes. The glitters are going to be either A, removed, or B, continued. There's only 2 options here. Whether if they get removed, they're probably going to have a little bit of increased rarity, kind of like Stockholm patch packs. No one really cares about them, but now that they're gone, they've increased in price pretty significantly. If they get continued on, this is probably the worst option of the 2, but there still might be some increased demand down the line because they were the first, similar to Krakow Golds. Now, I do want to note Krakow Golds are obviously going to be the better investment for the time. They're obviously going to be much more expensive than something the glitters were ever going to achieve, but the fact that they were also the first of their kind and they did sit at a very similar price point to what we see now when they were originally released leads me to the idea that the glitters could potentially have some sort of impact down the line, considering that the Krakow Golds started off in a very similar way. Obviously, Krakow Golds, they're a red tier, meaning that there was just so few of them to begin with, plus the fact that not too many people bought the actual capsules they were in led to an even higher price point. But I do see something similar happening with the Antwerp glitters so far down the line. Obviously, this is talking way in the future. This is going to be taking a lot more time to develop than the actual removal of the glitters would for an instant profit. To finish up our talk of Stockholm and Antwerp here, there's one thing I really want to direct you to, and that's my previous video where I talked about the unboxing numbers of the Chinese in Stockholm versus Antwerp. I was able to obtain some exclusive data that you cannot find anywhere else with these specific numbers, so I definitely recommend you check that one out, even if it's just for a couple minutes just to get the overall gist of it. But at least in my opinion, that entire video favored Antwerp in this current situation. Now, I do want to make a point of something. Every single CSGO capsule investment has been profitable at some time. This is very important because at least at this point, we haven't seen a capsule that hasn't broken its original price point after the sale. This on screen right now is the challengers and contenders of RMR 2020. Obviously, a capsule that isn't worth very much now. As you can see, they're sitting at 18 cents and 16 cents, which is extremely low considering everyone bought in at around 25 cents. But the fact that they were able to reach a price point higher than what they originally started at during the sale definitely gives a little bit of confidence, at least to me, moving forward, that Antwerp cannot be as bad as RMR. And that's my next point I want to get into. A lot of people are referring Antwerp to RMR, and there's a couple big things that are just completely wrong with that. Now, obviously, what they're doing, at least in my mind, is they're trying to say that Antwerp is going to be overinvested. That's my only logical thought process here, is that they're trying to say Antwerp is going to be so overinvested it's going to end up like RMR. But there was a couple big things with RMR that really changed that. First up, we had a really high player count when the capsules came out. This is very important because there were so many new people to the game during this time, and a lot of them were very interested in this investment that had quote unquote never failed. We had never seen a sticker capsule or an autograph capsule, which is mainly what we saw previously, that had been so consistently wrong compared to what RMR was. RMR was so wrong in everything that happened, but every capsule before that had turned out very good and very profitable. Next up, we had RMR Golds, which were the first of their kind, and although they look very, very poor in my opinion, they were still a first. A lot of people were referring to them as Krakow Golds, kind of similar to what I just did previously with the glitters, but I believe the glitters look good and have a future ahead of them. When we were talking about these team golds here, a lot of people were just looking at them and saying because they were gold, they were going to be profitable. A lot of people invested into the Navi gold at over $100, which is crazy considering now you can see the price point of it. After that, it was the first capsule we had seen in a while, considering the Rio 2020 major was canceled. This was kind of put up for the entirety of 2020, which is my last main point, that this capsule was on sale and even purchasable for so very long. There was over 100 days where you could purchase this capsule and about a month and a half where it was on sale for 25 cents, which is just absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. That's almost as long as the end of Operation Riptide to now. Could you imagine when Operation Riptide ended, they came out with the Antwerp capsule and it was still on sale now? That's roughly how long RMR was available to be purchased for, which led to such a supply that was just way too much for the demand that started to drop off pretty rapidly once we started to see these new stickers with Stockholm. You can see it, the drop in the graph right about here, and that's when these stickers really went negative. Up until Stockholm, these capsules were all very profitable. You could have sold them at any time and pretty much guaranteed yourself a profit. When we're talking about overinvestment here, the biggest thing is obviously going to be the supply. If there's a super low supply, there's probably going to be a high amount of profit to be made, and vice versa. Now in this situation, we don't have any numbers on that. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we obviously have the numbers from China, but those numbers are just one country. That's one thing I mentioned a decent amount in that video, is that's just one country, and it's really hard to see if that trend is going to be followed globally or if that's just stuck in China. I mean, we really don't know, and we can't get a really good gauge overall about what the supply actually is until the amount is already sold. The event has already finished, the sale is done. My biggest piece of advice though is do not base your investment off of the quantity listed on the market. It's not going to be a very good indicator. A lot of the times you are going to be using a misguided information booth. I mean, you're not going to be having any right information to get to where you want to be. Most of the time you'll probably end up okay because all of the capsules are going to rise in price. But this is what a lot of those lower tier YouTubers are doing, is focusing in on that to tell you how you can become rich, and because that's what worked with Stockholm. That may not be what works here with Antwerp. Antwerp, we can see that they've all got roughly the same amount. What does that mean? They don't know. But that is really all I have for today, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.